Hi, welcome to Hit Rewind. I had a snafu right before we hit record. Awkward. I'm your host, Michael, the idiot one. The smart one's on the other side, John.
Well, that's I'd say that's debatable.
No, everybody knows I'm a fucking idiot. So this episode is going to be the launch of our discussion of 1980. Of 1980? Oh my god, let's start over. Let's scratch the whole thing. Yeah, zip, up, zip, up, zip, Hey everybody, welcome to it's the 1990 season of Hit Rewind. We've discussed everything so far: games, comics, music, but now it's time for movies. And we're going to be discussing 4 films from 1990: Bird on a Wire, Ernest Goes to Jail, Farfig Nugan, House Party,
Men at Work.
Men at Work. Thank you. How did I forget my favorite of the 4? The one I've seen a million times. Son of a gun. I have notes, but I'm trying to get my memory working better because I don't want to be like. Well, look, you're just gonna do this experiment with me. All right. So, which one do you want to start with?
Well, I guess let's do what is now apparently a divisive one, Men at Work.
This is divisive? I thought everybody loved this movie.
Well, for me, I didn't find it funny at all. This is my first time watching. Okay, all right. You know what? Let me explain why. Well, not necessarily why I don't think it was funny. I just don't think it was funny. But in a way, what I think might have made this work better. I have a feeling that had this film either not been been 100% like straightforward, like a little thriller, or was like a darkly comic in like a Coen Brothers sort of way, I think this would have worked better for me. As is, that's not really the kind of film that either, Emilio Estevez or Charlie Sheen makes. So, well, they've both been in serious films, but when it comes to humor, that's not their Coen Brothers is not necessarily their style of humor. And I think that's to the detriment of it. Is just they're trying to be funny, and I don't think anything really lands. And it being on the serious side of things, this I think would succeed if they just kind of cut the humor out of it.
Yeah, it's funny that both of them have done comedies and they've done fairly well at them, but Emilio's directing this, and he's only ever done dramas. This is the only thing that he has ever done that had any sort of sense of humor to it, and he wanted to do it because it had the ecological elements, the social commentary elements to it. I do feel like, look, I love this movie, but I do see where you're coming from. There's a tonal problem for sure, and I think he saw the opportunity to direct again because his first movie, Wisdom, tanked, and he signed up with a lower level company called Epic Pictures, who I think was some more born out of Transworld and Empire Pictures together. I'm not sure, but it was a big coup for them because they actually had real names behind this. But of course, they did it for cheap. I think they shot some of this in Canada because most of these are Canadian actors. And he has his brother in it, so they probably did it for a very cut rate. This was a summer release, and I just remember thinking, like, this seems like an odd place to shove this into a summer, especially a summer so filled with great movies. But I saw it when I was, 13, 14, and I loved it. I still find a lot of comfort in it. It's not a great movie, but it's a fun movie. That's the only thing I can say is I really have a good time watching it.
Well, what's funny is, of all these films, I've only seen one of them prior to this, but I'm very familiar with the existence of all of these because for I think three of these films, they were all advertised on comics. So I remember seeing print ads for like 3 of these films, and so the images are stuck in my head. So I knew about this film for a very long time, and it had never crossed my path until now, and maybe had I seen it earlier, maybe I would have been more receptive to it. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I expect it's got Keith David in it, and I love Keith David.
See, that he is my absolute favorite part. But also at the same time, there's some stuff in this obviously that hasn't aged well. How we treat Vietnam vets, and also like the flashback to how Asians or whatever. I was like, ooh, that's not.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But it's also 1990. You got to give stuff a grain of salt unless it's truly offensive.
God, what is it? There's that cartoon that just came out on Netflix. The one where they're basically part of the Illuminati. They have an episode that is set in a town that's trapped perpetually in the 80s.
Uh-huh.
Basically, they have like a mind wiping compound that they occasionally will drop over, and just kind of reverts them back, so then they can just resell all the old crap that is dangerous to this town, because we don't need to worry about this. Here's some dangerous shit that you can play with. But one of the characters is one of the main characters is Asian, and so everywhere he goes and every time he talks, all of a sudden there's a gong.
That's every 80s movie.
And he's constantly freaked out and pissed off that this happens to him.
What is this cartoon?
It's like, it's not declassified. I would have. I'll tell you off air. I have to look it up again. It's really good.
So you would prefer if this was more of an ecological drama or thriller?
Yeah, either it needed to be a lot, like I said, played a lot more straightforward. Doesn't mean that there couldn't be quote unquote silly things in it, like the idea that they're doing this whole thing with a BB gun, holding people up. That's fine, but it just, a lot of the humor in this I think falls flat.
Oh, well, yeah, the ending when they're doing the cartoon sounds and stuff like that, I don't think that works. But I think there's a lot of funny stuff in the dialogue, and I love their pathetic little contest between them and the other trash guys.
But it's like, same thing like going like they're running around with a dead body and all this stuff, and it seems like if you had something that was a little more like Coen Brothers, where it's a lot darker, but you have there's still, you're laughing at stuff. I kind of feel like there's definitely a version of this film that exists, or that could exist, that leans more into that sort of territory.
Yeah. Oh, well, I think my favorite part of it is probably the first half, where it really just kind of, it's a slice of life look at these two losers who kind of want to be better, but they're so self-destructive, and and a lot of it's the character-based scenes and the dialogue they have with each other, arguing over the dumbest shit. That part to me is more interesting than the whole conspiracy plotline.
Yeah, once you get into the meat of this film, it does kind of fall apart. Whereas, they act well against each other, and it kind of shows, these guys are brothers. You kind of feel that.
So our second film is Bird on a Wire, one I haven't seen since it originally came out. There's stuff I like about it, but there's a lot of stuff I don't like. And I remember this being a huge hit at the time. And frankly, of the two 1990 Mel Gibson movies, I'm going to go with Air America. But there is, I love director John Badham. No one ever talks about him. But he has a style that's kind of like a lower stylized version of Peter Hyams. The way he lights and shoots action, he's really good at that. And he's good at the banter between characters. I think he perfected it best with Stakeout. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but
oh yeah.
I think the problem is a lot of this movie is just them improvising with each other. It's not really plot forward. It's kind of flimsy, and I really think the bad guys get a short shrift. They're hardly in this at all. But it's mostly just the Goldie and Mel show.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, you're right. This is kind of at the height of both their popularity, but in kind of thinking about it, this film is just kind of okay.
Yeah, there's the action stuff. I think is really interesting and well done. Like the crashing scene at the car shop that he's working at. I thought that was really well done. But I think the zoo setting at the end was really clever and unique. I don't know if I've ever seen. Has there ever been a movie set in a zoo? I feel like there has been where they had action sequences. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there have. Nothing's coming to mind.
Oh no, I got it. It's Eraser. There's that giant CGI crocodile.
Actually, you know what? I think there's some hijinks in Undercover Blues as well.
Oh, which I just ordered. It's going out of print, so if you want to get a copy, pick one up at deep discount because that company is going out of business. And
but one thing where I think this doesn't work for me is the only thing is in the interplay between Goldie Hawn and Mel Gibson. I think I don't know. For some reason, it felt like, and this is kind of a little more cliched than what they go with, but I kind of didn't like the fact that they actually known each other prior, and I don't know, for some reason it didn't ring true to me that they had a very good relationship, because it was mostly just kind of seemed like she was just dealing with him for the first time. Granted, again, seeing a man that is apparently been dead for 15 years and then getting to this adventure with him, that's would have some sort of disconnect. But I don't know, for some reason it just feels like it could have just been she just gets caught up in his thing. Some other reason for him getting spotted results in the adventure that follows.
Yeah. I think the one scene that could have been lifted out of this, because one, it's kind of stupid and cliche and mildly offensive, but also completely pointless, is the whole I used to be a former hairstylist and everybody just happens to be gay. You know what? You can like cutting hair and not be gay. What the hell is that bullshit?
I don't know. I had fun with that. I know it's very outdated stereotyping and very flamboyant and yes, somewhat problematic. But I had fun with that, especially considering that. Oh god, what's the guy who runs that hair salon?
I can't remember. I even watched it yesterday. I can't remember, but it's not a known actor that I know of.
Oh well, no, not the actor himself necessarily, but the character. I was trying to think, like, it's like maybe like Ralph. It's like Ralph, oh, okay. But the way it's spelled is so odd, And it'd be like Bob, but just B-A-U-B. It's something similar to that. And I just kind of like the terms of negotiation for allowing back into his life.
That was good, yeah.
Yeah, he played it well.
The one person who didn't get anything to chew on, and I've always been a big fan, I wish he had something to do, really, was David Carradine. But, this is a point where David Carradine's career was rock bottom, well, close to rock bottom, and he gets a chance at a studio film, so he's going to take it. And that's a big thing that happens with these kind of action comedies, is if the two main people are playing off each other a lot, it doesn't matter who the villain is. And half the time it's Peter, like Peter Green or Eric Roberts or something, an actor who's reliable, not expensive, but doesn't really have anything to do, so it's kind of a waste.
Yeah, it's like Bill Duke and Carradine are there, and that's kind of the problem with them as well. As just, I wish they had more to do.
Well, the one person who did have a bunch to do, and I can't remember his name, but he's the one that's in Stephen Tobolowsky. That's it. He's from Sneakers and Groundhog Day and a whole bunch of other stuff. But he is the one villain who's the least threatening, but he has the most to work with.
Oh yeah. It took me a second, like, wait. Oh, and I'm going, oh, that's right.
Yeah, it's because he's the liaison or whatever. So I think sometimes the whole on the run plot kind of takes over for what actually happened and what are the risks and all that stuff. I think that's kind of pushed aside. It reminds me of that movie Night and Day. I don't know if you ever saw it with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz, but it has that same kind of feel where the banter, the improving is more important than the actual plot.
Yeah, well, like I said, this is a film that was at the height of our two stars' career, popularity. So you throw them together, and the sparks are expected to happen regardless of what the story really is.
Yeah. All right. So our third film is where is it? Ernest Goes to Jail. I think the last good Ernest movie. I know some people worship Ernest Scared Stupid, but man, I rolled my fucking eyes so hard that I went back in time.
Yeah.
Well, this is the last one that's not aimed at kids, where it's more families. I remember when I was 13, this came out, and all the people in our age group went to go see this. And then the next year and a half later, when Ernest Scared Stupid is, it's like Ernest didn't evolve with his audience. He went so far back, and that's why Scared Stupid is a bomb. I think the biggest one was Christmas. They were never very expensive, but I think this one was pretty close to the same box office as Christmas. Of the four main Disney releases, which is your favorite?
Oh, actually, I would probably go with this one. Although I lean a bit towards camp as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun stuff in camp, but there's kind of a weird absurdity in this one that I appreciate, in the fact that they ditch kids this time. This is the only one where it's not either come directly aimed at small children or has children involved in it. And it's that whole, it's kind of like a Hitchcock spoof in a way. Like the wrong man gets set up and he has a dupe. I could go the rest of my life, though, without ever seeing another, I think we just talked about this too, another movie where there's two people who look exactly alike, and he goes, he's the real one, no, I'm the real one, no, he's the real one, well, let me give you a fact that, and whatever, and then it goes, haha, that was never it, and they shoot him, whatever. I hate that shit in movies, and I hope no one ever does it again.
Well, that's the thing, is with this movie, you actually really get to see how good an actor Jim Varney is.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a scene in Christmas when he has to pretend to be like the snake guy trying to get in, or whatever, and then he's like, is a dear old aunt, and stuff like that. You start to see some of the characters that he would play. But did you ever see his TV show called Hey Vern, It's Ernest?
Yes. I don't remember that clip been. Oh God, when they aired. But yeah, I do remember seeing the show.
That's when he was really let loose, because it was very low budget. They had to shoot it very fast, but they let him play all these crazy characters, and he brought that over to Ernest Scared Stupid, or Ernest Goes to Jail. And yes, I think people are starting to recognize now that he was a good actor. He was just kind of held to this one role.
Well, it's like speaking of him as a good actor it's not a particularly good movie, but you've seen the Beverly Hillbillies, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He is phenomenal. Like, it's not a good movie, but I would recommend seeing that movie just for Jim Varney, because he brings it. He's a total highlight of this film, and he can actually almost make me cry at moments in that damn film. And that film is really stupid.
Well, here's the other thing about Ernest Goes to Jail is that there's a little bit more money, and I feel like it's lit better. It has an actual tone, unlike the rest of the movies in all his franchise. It's shot with some style. It has better lighting. They're using different camera angles to make things look denser. But also the story's more complicated, with the bad Jim Varney and the good Jim Varney and the people in prison trying to help him or help the bad guy keep him in there, whatever. And then there's the people on the outside. I think the prison part is so well done.
Yeah, well, and what's nice is people actually kind of comment, like outside of the little Ernest world, outside of this little bubble, people are kind of commenting on the hijinks and stuff that make up Ernest and aren't really there for his tomfoolery.
But also, I am of the mind that Ernest isn't stupid. At least with the Disney movies. I feel like they made his character really stupid with the direct-to-video line. But I just feel like he's one of those guys that's very absent-minded, gets caught up in his own kind of thing that he doesn't pause to think. Like, he panics and stuff like that where, he's not cool, calm, and collected, but he's not a moron.
He's just a lovable goof.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not that far off from Ernest sometimes in my, instant, impulsive, rash behavior, but I'm not a moron.
Yeah, it's just sad because even in those Disney films, he does kind of lean a little bit more so into, dullard territory, but it's not. Yeah, I don't think necessarily that he does. He's a moron or anything like that. He's, I guess, yeah. Again, I just feel like he's a live action Goofy. Basically.
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely.
And especially in this film, because, which is the funniest thing about this film is it's also very, in a way, it's like without the kids and all that stuff, it is weirdly grounded, which allows for the very oddball, over-the-top Electro Man stuff at the end of the film to somehow work, because Ernest does not properly exist in a tangible physical reality. And it's now, here's this weird goof in the reality doing weird, goofy things, and people are just kind of having to roll with it.
Yeah.
With the absurdity of it.
I think the scene when he's in the court and the pen breaks and he has to cover it up with paper and shove it in his mouth, and everyone just keeps noticing how fucked up he is. I think it's an all-time. That scene just makes me laugh every single time.
It freaks me out because I'm afraid one day when I bite into a pen that's going to happen to me.
Understandably so. All right, so our final film is House Party. The launch barely. Did we talk about how the weirdness of House Party launched Kid and Play into like a mini franchise for a few years? Like maybe we were talking about their album. How did this happen?
We didn't talk about their album, but we were talking about I forget which album we were discussing, but we did bring up Kid Play did get brought up, and yeah, that's the thing is to my knowledge up until this film I've never heard any Kid Play songs. Basically they were a brand that was what I knew them for.
It just feels like it feels like I don't want to condescend or insult them, but it feels like it's like an agent package. Like, hey, we can sell this to households in the suburbs, whatever. Parents will love them. They're funny and goofy, whatever. And then I think that people forget that the first House Party is pretty good in what it's trying to do. It's a comedy, but it's not like a silly goofball comedy. It's a legitimate, like, just trying to tell a story of one regular night in his neighborhood and the shit that he has to deal with, which, I mean, is relatable to everybody. But the one thing they do, they throw in a little bit of that social commentary with, like, he's just walking to a party and the cops pull him over for no reason whatsoever, and even someone of his own race is treating him shitty.
Well, it's like it's not even just that. It's like the cops are constantly pulling everybody who's just walking, minding their own business, pulling them over and hassling them. And even at the party that Kid and the bullies crash ends up, just how you can see the relationship between the people and the police are, not this is like these older, and it seems like, even though I guess, some of these guys are living in the projects, kind of seems like well-to-do sort of party, this older class, class reunion party. They definitely do not want to have anything to do with these two white guys who are basically acting like little fascists running around and hassling everybody.
Yeah. And I think it's one of the very first and few comedies that just geared at African American teenagers, but was truly accessible to anybody, really. But why is it so hard to get almost completely African American cast? Whenever I see movies like this, they're either very, very low budget and they barely get released, or we have to put in everybody, like one black, the token black guy, the token Asian character, whatever, and then a bunch of cute white people from WB. Why is this so hard? This movie made money, so I'm just shocked that no one ever bothered to continue this concept.
I don't know. Hollywood does what it does, and unfortunately representation is not one of the things that it does very well. And
I appreciate the early years of New Line Cinema before they had all that money and then Warner Brothers bought them up, because they were kind of just spitballing what audiences are being neglected, what's some new thing that can be shown to the world and we might have a hit. I mean, this cost $1 or $2 million and they made 25, and there's a whole bunch more of these. 2 is good. I don't know if you have seen any. You haven't seen any of the sequels,
no,
right?
Yeah, I've never seen any of them. I know of them. I know about the Pajama Jamma Jam.
Yeah, so that one's,
I've never seen the film.
The second one isn't as good, but it's still pretty good. It's pretty close, and I enjoy it. 3 is unfucking watchable. It's about them getting married, and it is brutal. I made it 20 minutes into it before I said, nope, I'm out. Because they had good directors on the first 2. They had Reginald Hudlin, and then they had Doug McHenry, and I don't know who the fuck they had for the third one, but that was clearly just a cash-in. It was so bad. And then there's like a direct-to-video series. I think there's a 4 and a 5 with like a much younger cast, and it really doesn't have anything to do with the first few movies. But I say the first 2, yes. After that, skip them.
Let's see. Oh, the one thing about this film especially is interesting is how much it both was inspired by and definitely inspired afterwards a lot of those going to a person's house for a party movies.
What came before this? I know there's bits and pieces like of other movies, but like the whole concept.
Well, like Weird Science and some of the
gotcha.
like John Hughesy things like Risky Business. Like a little bit of that is kind of in this, but then you look to like any film that came after it, and you can see a lot of House Party in what those films did.
Yeah.
But I have to do one thing did bother me. I had to pause it and go do something at one point, and when I got up, I went, I'm only 40 minutes into this? What the fuck do they have for another hour? What do they have to do? What did they say? My God. And, I wasn't disappointed on the second half of that, but I do think there is, if you're going to say anything really negative about this film, is I guess the pacing is a little off, because I really felt like I had gotten, once they had gotten to the party, I thought, oh, we're now going to be, the bullies will show up, they'll get their comeuppance, and we'll get to the end of the film, and that takes a while for that to happen.
Yeah. But of the four, which do you prefer?
You know what? I will go with House Party. As much as I enjoy Ernest Goes to Jail, I had seen that one before, so 3 films that I really hadn't seen, House Party definitely takes it.
Okay, so Men at Work is my favorite of the 4. Sorry you didn't like it as much, even though I understand totally why it has issues. It's what I like about it though is that you picked movies you had not seen. You could have picked comfort watches that you knew and trusted, and that's an interesting getting out of your comfort zone kind of thing to do. So cool on you, buddy. I wasn't being condescending at all.
No. Originally it was like 2. I had it as 2 kids movies and 2 grown-up comedies, effectively, and we couldn't do Home Alone for other reasons.
Yes, because if I did, I'm pretty sure Jacob would have come through the phone line, strangled me, and then quit the show. If I take that away from him, he'd be so sad.
But yes, Saw for Kids was not going to be was not the 4th film on this list, sadly.
Yeah. All right, so announcements. This is the end of our part of 1990. Jacob and I will be finishing the last 2 segments of the movies of 1990, and then we'll be back after I move, probably late January, with 1991.
Alrighty.
Okay, do your plugs.
Okay, I am on Twitter and on Twitch under Musician, MYUZISHION. Come check me out. Say hi. Follow me, please. I have followers, especially on Twitch.
Okay, and we are on, all the podcast hosts under Hit Rewind. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and we are out. Have a good night.
Later.